G'day legends, I hope you're all fantastic. On today's video, we're taking another look at the Electric Eye Audio Mud Killer. We're going to hear it with a few different amps and setups today. Basically, you take a kind of classic overdrive circuit, you add a high pass control in there so that you can really dial in the amount of bass content pre-gain to boost and tighten up an already high gain amp. And there's a pretty handy little feature on here as well where you can remote switch the channels on your amps if they support that. There's some clipping options in here, and there's even the ability to disable the pre-gain control in here and just simply use the mud control, the tone control, and this post gain to essentially shape the input to your amp. And that, in my opinion, is really the recipe for modern high gain. It's controlling and cutting bass before your gain stages, having gob loads of gain, and then letting the tone stack or another EQ section boost up the gain and pull out some mid-range in there. So we're going to start off with one of my favorite high gain amps at the moment, and then we'll just move through a couple of different options. Let's go. On my last video with the Mud Killer, we heard it through my old dual rectifier. Let's do something a little bit different, but kind of similar at the same time. I've got the Synergy Uberschall module running into a Synergy Syn 5050 power amp and my old Marshall cab with greenbacks. I want to do this because, one, it's really easy to film both at the same time, and two, I want to show you how this mud control is very interactive with what you've got going on from the amp. So I'm going to start out in kind of recto territory, mud control all the way down. The pre-gain control is disabled, and essentially you've just got like a kind of tube screamer style pre-boost on here. Let's have a listen to what it does. So essentially there, it is pretty subtle. This is where the mud control really comes in handy here. And what's cool about it is as you get to the extreme range, I like to kind of boost up some of the bass in the amp's preamp as well. So you can kind of find the sweet spot between those. Let's do that. Then I'll bring in some pre-gain on here. I'm actually going to preset the pre-gain to about 9 o'clock there, and I will click it in after I've got the mud control and the bass control where I like it. would say that is probably the most common application of this particular pedal. It's definitely where it is marketed towards, but I do want to let you hear some different applications of this because it's going to work like a traditional overdrive as well. So another thing that I like with this is because we've got these clipping options. I quite like the LED clipping. I'm going to bring that up. I'm actually going to back off the post gain control, bring the tone control down, and bring the mud control back. What's cool about this Synergy module is it's kind of got its own built-in tight switch, which I think I flick this up. You can hear there's a bit more hiss and noise in there. So I'm going to use this as a thickening agent on top of my tone. Check this out. Alternatively, you could turn the pre-gain all the way up. We'll go fat with the mud control and bring the tone control all the way up, and you can kind of get some grindy stuff out of this. Let's hear the Mud Killer as more of a traditional overdrive pedal. Here I'm using the Synergy TDLX on the twin mode. I'm actually going to start with the mud control all the way down. I'll let you hear the clean sound. I'll bring the pedal in and we will swap between silicon and LED clipping on there. With a Strat like this, on a Tube Screamer style pedal, I normally keep the tone quite low. I'm going to use the mud control as like the finishing touch on this tone. Let's check it out. I think I really prefer the LED clipping on that with this particular setup. What's interesting is that getting the mud control up past about where I've got it at the moment, stuff starts to sound a little bit too thin. But what I could do is actually boost the bass control on here. So I'm going to do this. This is kind of the opposite way to dial in something like this. I'll set the mud control all the way down here. When I've got it cranked, you're going to give it a bit more of a mid push as well, and then we'll bring the bass control on the actual amp up to where it feels appropriate. So kind of backwards, but it's fun when you have these interactive circuits like this. I've got my Cherry Tone Molecular Ibanez RG550. I want a late 80s kind of hair metal thing, and I've mostly got that for the rhythm tone out of the amp. What I want to get out of the pedal is to use it like a thickening agent on top of that, you know, going from a rhythm sound to a lead sound. So I've got the pre-gain and the tone at noon. The post-gain I've actually backed off a little bit. We're on silicon clipping and the mud control is at a minimum. Let's see what it does. The addition of clipping from the pedal and clipping from the amp is pretty cool in there. It does really smooth things out, turning the tone control down. And you'll notice I got the mud control up a little bit now and bring the pre-gain down on there. It's actually pretty cool on the neck pickup. I might actually bring this up a little bit. You know, if you just want to go from, again, crunch to a smoother lead kind of thing. This sort of thing actually works pretty well if you've got more of a vintage style guitar. I've got my old 77 Strat with some Michael Landau single coils in it. I might actually back off the mud control here. sorted things out, let's hear this pedal into a Mark Series amp. I've got my Boogie Mark IV set up on the lead channel. I've got the bass control on 0. Mid's quite low, treble cranked all the way up, and I've given the graphic EQ a nice V shape. What that's doing on that amp, because the tone stack is pre-gain, it's kind of doing a similar thing to the mud control on this. I'm pulling out as much bass as possible in there, and then it's running into the cascading gain stages, and then we are sculpting everything with the graphic EQs. So what I want to do with this pedal is less kind of tighten up and kill mud, because I already like where that is, and more JP2C shred switch kind of thing. So I'll start with the mud control in the middle. Pre-gain I've got at 9 o'clock, but I will start with that out of the circuit, and we'll have the tone up above noon. I just want more sizzle and sustain when I switch to the neck pickup on this guitar, which is a Hamer Standard from 2008. So let's hear it. Let's hear that now, but with the actual bass control turned up to about 4 on the lead channel, which is something I would never do. I rarely get that control over 1 or 2 on a Mark Series amp, so it's going to be a bit more congested, but then the Mud Killer, it's going to do Mud Killer things. Thanks so much for checking out the video. I really hope it was informative. Thank you so much to Electric Eye Audio for sending me this pedal. They sent it to me over a year ago, and I've been using it a whole bunch. It just hits that sweet spot of something I'm already familiar, like a classic overdrive circuit as a pre-boost, but gives me that little bit of control that I'm so used to from using digital solutions like the Axe effects, where it's like, hey, I want to have a high-pass filter before my amp. I want to change the amp's input EQ. Well, I can do that with this pedal, and once you wrap your head around that kind of approach, it's pretty hard to go back to anything else. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to support my channel, there's some links to do so in the video description. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.